Hello, everybody. Wild Man Z here with a book review. This is, I make these videos just based on things that I like. I put a lot of nature videos up for people that watch them, for my 5 or 10 people that check out my videos, and I appreciate you. I'm just doing this for kicks. I'm an older guy. I don't have any social media. I just kind of felt like making a few videos, tell people about things that I'm interested in. I guess 3 or 4 major things I'm into. I love animals. As you can see, I love feeding wildlife and just being in nature, seeing animals. I love things like fishing as well, which I have no conflict with. I'm a omnivore. I eat animals, and I'm sure they would eat me if they had the opportunity. But I love being out in nature. Secondly, I love literature of all forms. I like working out. I'm getting older, but I still like to pump iron. I was really into it when I was younger. I was into trying to get into bodybuilding a little bit. Didn't have really the genetics to go far. Also like science. I have a PhD in chemistry, so I'm not going to make too many boring videos about science because there's a lot of that on the internet, and you can watch people at Caltech and Harvard give you better information than I can give you. But in terms of bodybuilding, I got started in terms of training with weights. I wasn't thinking about it as bodybuilding, but in terms of lifting weights in 1983, and that's the year this book came out. I remember it was 1983. Because the reason I got into training was I saw a picture of, I used to go to the newsstand, buy comic books and things like that, and there was a muscle mag there. I bought it. I probably abnegated my comics, and I forgot what it was. It might have been Muscle Mag International or Iron Man, but it had an article on that year's Mr. Olympia. It was not Muscle and Fitness. And it had pictures of Samir Banaut, who was Lebanese. He's still around, Lebanese bodybuilder. He's probably about 65 years old now or older. He had a fantastic physique, and if I find a picture of him in this book, I will point him out. This was the year he won the Mr. Olympia. He was I would say, a handsome man, very, very beautiful physique, very symmetrical, what we call classic bodybuilding physique, not overly massive, but big enough, and nice muscle balance all over, good proportions, and very ripped. My mother didn't like the idea of working out. She had a misconception that everybody, back in the day, they thought all bodybuilders were gay. She thought that it was very egotistical. She didn't think it was she thought it was kind of for losers, basically. A bunch of guys hanging out at the gym with nothing better to do. She liked athletic physiques, but definitely not like when she used to see Lou Ferrigno on TV as the Hulk. She used to make fun of him. She thought Arnold was a big dummy as well, which obviously he's not. But when she saw a picture of him, she thought he looked like Omar Sharif, who was one of her favorite actors, and she thought he was handsome. She says, "Oh, if you want to look like that, you can go to the gym." Now, my genetics, I could never be built like Samir Banaut. I would give my eye teeth. But that was my excuse to go to the gym. Was my mother thought he was a handsome guy and I could look like him. I've actually communicated that information to him via email on one of his shows he puts on these days. It's a muscle review show, and I think he emailed back like, "Wow, that's a great story." But my mother let me go to the gym, which was, back in the day, kids, we didn't have allowances or things like that. So going to the gym, you had to get your parents to chip up that $50 or $100 for that membership was a big deal. And gyms were not all over the place. She used to drive me sometimes. A lot of times I would. It's not there anymore. It's a storage facility now, but it was about 2 miles, 3 miles from my house. So I'd ride a bike or walk a lot of times. I remember even in the brutal winter, sometimes walking through the snow to get there to train legs or something, because there was, you're so into it when you're a kid, and I'm still into it, but I don't think I'd walk through a blizzard to go to the gym. I think I'd just stay home and do some push-ups or something. But at any rate, let's look. This book's called Beef It. Now, why is it called Beef It? Beef It is a saying that came about from, this book's by Robert Kennedy. He had a magazine called Muscle Mag International back in the day. I don't think it's out anymore. It was not part of Joe Weider's Muscle and Fitness or Flex, but in there, they were featuring they have a photo spread of some really muscular bodybuilders. I mean, like guys who were massive for the time, like Bertil Fox was an example. Benny the Beast from the East Poda, I remember he was another guy who was very massive. And they would always put Beef It by that. And I think that came because around 79, 80, there was a bodybuilding contest. I think it was in NABA. It was Sergio Oliva versus Serge Nubret with the final two, and people started yelling, beef it, like show those beefy physiques at the end of the show. And I forgot who won that contest. It was a little bit before my time. But that's where the term beef it comes from. This is a bodybuilding book about training. Now, you got to remember, if you're a younger guy watching this or a younger woman, we didn't have the internet back in the day. We didn't have all these quote-unquote experts on bodybuilding. Guys like, I watch this guy once in a while called Dr. Mike, who says he's got a PhD in bodybuilding or something. I'm like, I'm looking at this guy. He looks kind of like not much better than I do. I'm like, okay, you got a PhD in working out. And then I watch a lot of old school guys like Mike O'Hearn, or if they have like an interview with Frank Zane or guys like that, guys who actually like know how to train, like people actually work out. And so, at any rate, this book was a source of information that, I got my hands on it, and it had like some pretty cool things about training. And, you would just pick up a routine, you read a little bit, and you'd watch a guy in a gym, and you weren't so neurotic about it, like guys are today walking around with a ledger and keeping tracks of things. On the cover is a guy named Greg DeFurro, R.I.P. A lot of these guys have passed away now. Rocky DeFurro. You don't see his body face, but you see his massive body. He looked kind of like Stallone. He died a few years back. He was really good. He was like, placing second, third in a lot of major contests. I thought that was just a dramatic pose. Oh, here they got the two guys. I think this is where they talk about beef it. Here's a picture of Brutal Bertil Fox, who... he unfortunately did a long stint in prison for, I won't go into it, but it involved somebody dying or people dying. He's out now. Serge Nubret, who's passed away about a decade ago or so. Very beautiful physique. French, Caribbean bodybuilder. Excellent. I always thought he should have gotten Mr. Olympia, but he had a couple strikes against him, Back in the day, here's my man Steve Davis. This guy was really famous because back in the day he was really fat at one time. He was like 300-pounder, big. He was more like powerlifter, and he trimmed down to look like that, like with one big old diet. Now I was a husky kid. I kind of thought I was going to lose weight and look like that, but I didn't have all the muscle he had under there. Here's a guy still around. Here's my man Andres Colling, the Viking. Andreas Colling. He had a nice physique. He's still around. He's about 65, 70 now. He's still pumping iron. He looks really good. He had some sort of a stroke or something, has a little palsy in his face, but the guy's body still looks fantastic. Here's another shot of Serge Nubret. Check out that fantastic physique. That's just about as good as it gets, in my opinion. We got Arnold over there. I like Arnold. Honestly, I think he's kind of overrated in terms of physique. I think he's spectacular in terms of history of bodybuilding, but I think a lot of these guys, particularly the black guys, kind of blew him away. I think they kind of had a little bias back in the day. I'm a white guy, just that's my opinion. Here's a physique comparison between Frank Zane and Bertil Fox, showing you the differences in body types. Here's my man Mike Mentzer. I think I like Mike Mentzer's physique. I'm not a big fan of Mike Mentzer's training style. He's into doing very few sets. He's passed away now. Very few sets, very few reps, just going to total failure. And pretty much everybody's ever really trained by that. Not these internet guys, but guys that really trained like that have always burned their bodies out and hurt themselves. I like sets and reps like my man Arnold here. Arnold, I think he had some deficiencies in his physique, but those arms and that chest were certainly not deficient. I couldn't get arms like that if I trained forever. That's like incredible arm development. Some great pictures in here. Oh, here's my man Chris Dickerson. I've actually met him. There's a gym not too far from me. It used to be there. It was, I think, in the town of Holbrook on Long Island. It's called JD's. JD was a bodybuilder who was friends with Chris Dickerson, and I've seen him out at his gym training and kind of holding informal seminars. Chris passed away recently. He was older. He was in his 80s. He could sing opera. I went to see him one time at that club or another club in the area, and I went with my friend Tullio, who's an Italian guy, and we were sitting there, and Chris came out, and he started talking about, like, bodybuilding isn't, we're all sitting there, a bunch of workout guys, and we're on, like, lawn chairs in the gym, and he starts talking about how bodybuilding is not his first love, and he starts singing, and, like, Italian and opera. We were like, this is before the internet. We didn't realize he sang for the New York Opera. The guy had a beautiful voice. Here's my man, Sergio Oliva. I've actually seen him on stage holding up his son, Sergio Oliva Jr., who's a bodybuilder now and is probably about 40. Sergio Sr. won the first, he was the second Mr. Olympia. He won 2 or 3 of them in the late 60s. That's him with one of his wives, I believe. Guy had an incredible physique. I saw him in 1984. He was older. He's probably pushing 50. The guy literally at 230 pounds, had probably about a 27, 28-inch waist. Literally, one of his thighs was clearly bigger than his waist, which is absolutely crazy proportions. Here's my man, Mike Menser. Check out that dramatic pose. Back in the day, guys had, like, they weren't as massive as the guys are today, but they had very unique physiques. That was like, everybody's today, they takes guys used to take steroids, but these days they take a whole host of drugs like insulin growth factor, human growth hormone, a whole bunch of things that make you grow a lot more than just naturally by far, but also even a lot more than regular steroids. And they give the muscle a volume and kind of a softness to it because it holds a lot of fluid. Also, what a lot of these guys do these days, none of these old time guys did, is they also shoot oil in some of their muscles, or certain salines, other type of solutions to pump it up. There's my man Frank Zane. I've communicated with him via email a couple times. Don't really know him, but he's got a fantastic, very lean physique, very athletic build. I like it. Here's my man McAwee. I've seen him on stage at the '84 Olympia. Fantastic little guy, maybe 5'3", 5'4". He's the type of guy that's such a good poser that you really don't see his deficiencies. Like, his back isn't that wide or thick because he's a really small, compact guy, and he doesn't really have great hamstrings, but he would pose in such a way, so dramatically, your eye would never go to it. And I've only noticed that now that I'm older, and like, I've been watching people pose and stuff forever. I love bodybuilding. And you see, like, wow, this guy did not have a perfect physique, but his posing is so good that he took second place in the Olympia twice against guys that were fantastic. Here's two guys that were really cool. Those are the Barbarian twins. You might have seen them in some movies back in the day, like DC Cab or Twin Sitters. They made a couple campy movies in the late 80s, early 90s. One of them, David Paul, passed away. The other one, Peter Paul, lives in Vermont, not far from me. I don't see him around, but he's around town sometimes doing his thing. Here's another picture of Barbarians. This picture inspired me back in the day. One of them, I can't tell the difference of them. He's carrying like 100-pound dumbbells with sloppy form, but back in the day we used good form, but sometimes you'd want to throw some heavy weight up, and guys would not come up in the gym like they do these days and say, excuse me, you need to hold that 10 seconds at the top and this and that. And I look at some of these guys who critique people, and I'm like, maybe you should try something a little different because you're a geek, and who are you to give advice? Check out my man Serge Nubret here. Look at that physique. Just chiseled. Serge did some crazy-ass workouts. He would get up in the morning, do like something like 5,000 sets of abs and like body weight squats, kind of like cardio. And he would go to gym. He would do hundreds of sets, high reps. Like, all these guys are like overtraining. That guy, like, that's all he did was overtrain. Oh, here's my man Greg DeFer. I just want to show you how crispy he was back in the day. Really muscular guy, great set of abs, very muscular. He was in there. He was like taking second, third in the Olympia. He just passed away a few years ago. Here's my man Lance Dreyer. And I say that about all these guys because I love all these dudes. These guys were like inspiration to me. This is when I started working out. This is Lance Dreyer, massive arms, massive back, and like, he'd always take last place when he went to the IFBB. I never understood that. There was different bodybuilding federations, and usually when you competed in some of the other ones, like he did, then you would get like last place when you came to the IFBB, which associated with contests like the Mr. Olympia. Here's Dennis Tenorino, a taller bodybuilder. Didn't have huge legs, but really nice shape. He had great abs, just really cut. Handsome dude. Like, he was slated to play in a movie called Hercules Comes to New York, which was arguably, I believe it was Arnold's first movie. Arnold went in there, and they were like, oh, we're going to get Dennis Tenorino to play Hercules. He's a good-looking Italian. He's got black hair. He's got a good build. And Arnold was like, Arnold in his book said, I think it was in Total Recalling My True Life Adventures, whatever it was. He said that he's like, oh, Dennis can't act. I was in Shakespeare in Austria. And he said he was lying. He said he did Romeo and Juliet. He said he couldn't do one line if he had to. But he ended up getting a job, and Dennis Tenorino went nowhere. Dennis Tenorino ended up being a gangster after his bodybuilding career, did some time in prison and became a priest, and then he passed away, unfortunately. Here's Muhammad McAwee. I think he's still alive and kicking. He's, I think, in Canada right now. He was called the Magic Egyptian. And I saw him at the 84 Olympia, taking second. He was in one of the Night of Champions. He came out on a camel. I was not there for that one. It would have been great. They used to put on like cool shows in bodybuilding. These days you got a lot of advertisements and everybody's all uptight and serious about it. In the old days, here's a dude who's a legend. That's Ageless Al Beckles right here. Let's get a close-up of him. Ageless Al took a second place in the Mr. Olympia at like 55 years old, which is crazy. He died like last year or the year before. I think it's on the internet. It says he died, and other people say he's still alive. But he literally was in his late 90s when he died, and I've seen videos of him with guys like Rich Piana, who a modern age bodybuilder, died at like 40-something, but in the gym showing a guy like at least 90, still training. Some people are like, oh, Grandpa's using a walker. I'm like, yeah, Grandpa is being safe. He's 90 years old in the gym. He's going around between the equipment and a walker. That's called being smart. He doesn't want to fall, but when he gets on the machine, he was still pumping out, and he looked great for his age. But he won a pro contest. Here's him posing. He's probably in his 50s in this book. He won a pro contest at 62 years old. Not a Masters contest against guys in their 20s. And that is crazy when you think about it. Here's my man, Gunnar Rosbo. Don't know what happened to this guy. Look at the forearms on this dude. This dude, I don't think he ever necessarily went pro. I know he took second place in the Mr. Universe to Lee Haney. Massive arms, huge forearms. Here's a classic shot of Arnold. Arnold's like the quintessential bodybuilder. He's the one you think about bodybuilding, like if you're an older guy. You think about Arnold, you think about his movies, you think about him in Mr. Olympia, you think about, all that, the Governor. Again, like I think he's got a fantastic physique, but I still think some of these guys were better than he was. I think they kind of got robbed a little bit. Check out my man Scott Wilson, how ripped his legs were. He's another guy who's passed away in recent years. He was one of those guys who was always up there. He's won some Grand Prix shows. I don't think he ever placed in the top 5 in the Olympia or anything like that, but he was really, some of these guys were fantastic. In the old days, we only had a couple bodybuilding contests a year. Here's a guy I met in real life back when I was younger. That's Tom Platz. Tom Platz. Huge legs. Upper body's good, but the legs are outpaces his upper body. And that's when I saw him. I was like, wow, the guy's upper body isn't that big, but his legs are massive. Here's my man Serge just blowing this girl away. She's like, look at this guy. He's like, yeah, check me out. And when you're a kid and you see this, come on, you're influenced by it. You can't help it. That's why I'm not even talking about, they're talking about, they got one paragraph on steroids here. Another practice is taking diuretics in large amounts. So talking about dieting. A product named Lasix, which makes the body lose large amounts of fluids. Blah, blah, blah. Potentially dangerous drug to all bodybuilders, not worth a $50 trophy. Now, they only had one diuretic that I know of back then. Guys very rarely used them. These days, I think most of the guys, in my opinion, that are dying, besides they're kind of going in there a weakened state. You're dieting. Your blood is really thick because you take a lot of steroids. You're not donating blood like you should, and you just have, your hematocrit, all that sort of roof. Now, suddenly you're taking a diuretic. Your coach there may not know about the right way to cycle in or take out potassium. Depends. Some make you flush out potassium. Some make you retain potassium these days. And so a lot of guys that die, although I think steroids are a long-term causal agent, but these guys that are dying right around the time of the show, like acutely, I think a lot of that is due to diuretics. It's all bodybuilding drugs, but here's another picture of Tom Platz. There, as you can see, the legs are definitely outpacing the upper body. He's still around. He's making videos. Kids love this guy. Like, he'll make motivational videos these days, and all the kids are like, wow, this guy's like, they like, the kids, young people like the intense guys that say out there stuff. If he said something like train sensibly, oh, here's the man. This is the guy who got me training. My mother liked this guy's physique. Check out how symmetrical and how proportioned and shaped that physique. That's what we call a balanced physique. See, the calves are good, the thighs are good, everything matches. It's like it has a flow to it. It's not like, when you look at Tom Platz, he's very muscular, got just as much muscle as the other guy, but it's like you look at the legs, you go, wow, look at the legs. With Sam here, you'd like look at the whole physique. It's like, even with Arnold. See, like with Arnold, to me, I'm looking at that, and I'm looking right at the arms, right? The abs aren't good, right? The thighs this is Mr. Olympia, good compared to a regular guy. Thighs aren't that good, but the arms are amazing, To me, I like a physique that's balanced. To me, that's like, I can't be like any of these guys, but to me, a proportional physique is like the ideal physique. So, at any rate, it has, they have all sorts of exercise techniques in here. I'm not going to talk about all that. They go by body part, just like looking at the pictures at this point in time. If you've been training 40 years and you need to to look up exercises, you're really probably pretty dumb, and you should just read books and get a better education. Oh wow, this is a nice back picture. This is my man Roy Callender. I think he's still around. I've seen him on stage at the '84 Olympia. Really massive guy. He's one of these guys, really dark skinned black dude, and kind of on stage we say he gets washed out. It's like, you don't see, up at the distance, you have a hard time seeing all this guy's muscularity with the lighting, at least they had back then. A lot of dark guys are like that. Like there's a guy who trains not far from me, Akeem Williams. He's real dark, and when I see him on stage, I'm like, man, if you saw that guy in the gym, he's a lot more muscular than that. I think the stage washes a lot of these darker black skinned guys out, and it's just, that's how it is. It's optical illusion. But up close, some of these guys are impressive. That's Tom Platz's leg. Check that out. I mean, I don't think that degree of muscularity, separation, striation, and with size has been matched even by modern bodybuilders with all their drugs. Some people might say Jay Cutler back in there, Branch Warren. They were still kind of soft compared to that. I mean, that's chiseled. Those striations on the inside of the quad are incredible. Even up here, you see striations on getting into his hip flexors and stuff. It's impressive. I mean, that's really something else. And so then again, see, in the old days, we didn't have a lot of equipment. You see my man Steve Davis, he's doing a hack squat. I still do these. I train in my house a lot in New York, and I don't have any. I got a lap machine and a weeder bench that has like a leg extension, leg curl. I have a bench and all that, but I don't have machines. Sometimes I do. See, like this is a hack squat you do with a barbell. I don't know. It's called a barbell hack squat. It works good. It's like a natural body. You're using your body balance and stuff, and it works good. I see even some guys like Michael Hearn do it in the gym filled with equipment because, you get a stress on the muscle. I'm running out of time here on my phone, but just show you another nice leg shot. It looks like Mike Mentzer, really good calves and hamstrings. Not all these guys today, they're always sticking their butt out with all the striations. I'm like, who really wants to see that? He has beautiful calves on Mike Mentzer. That's one thing that's missing on a lot of guys today is really nice calves. They have like really big hamstrings and thighs, but like ugly shape. It's all about shape. Calves are important. But anyway, I'm running out of time. Just want to show you some muscle guys here, and book I like from 1983. It's called Beef It. If you like bodybuilding old school, check it out. If not, just a fun book for me to talk about for a few minutes. Maybe I'll make a video later on about comics. Wild Man Z out. Have a good New Year.